What's going on, everybody? It is that time again. The Sooners Illustrated Podcast, episode 231 on this Monday, December 1st, 2025. Welcome to December. Red November is complete. Josh Callaway, Tom Green with you on a post-game reaction Monday. Somehow, some way they did it. Oklahoma found a way. They survived against LSU on Saturday in another low-scoring rock fight of a game in Norman. They are into the college football playoff, presumably. We'll talk about the path. We'll wrap up the game, hit a little bit of hoops on the back end as well. It is a post-game reaction Monday. Got a lot to get to as we shift into the month of December. The college football playoff on the horizon as we start to look ahead to what should be a very interesting month for OU football coming up here in the next several weeks. Before we get started, a reminder, as always, you can subscribe to Sooners Illustrated at oklahoma.247sports.com. Use the promo code SoonersPod60. Gets you 60% off a VIP membership to Sooners Illustrated and the entire 24/7 Sports Network for an entire year. So make sure to take advantage of that. Use that promo code and jump in for, like we said, the playoff run. Signing Day Wednesday. Going to have a press conference with Brent Venables and Jim Nagy. So we'll have that coming up for you. Obviously, Hoops is off and running. So a lot to get to, a lot going on. Be sure to be along for the ride with us over at Sooners Illustrated. All righty, let's get into this game a little bit, and then we'll kind of go big picture with the playoff and kind of everything with OU football moving into, obviously the next few weeks, like we said, signing Day Wednesday, all that good stuff. Oklahoma won this game somehow, Tom, 17-13. It's a weird game because somehow it felt like they pulled one out a little bit because it looked pretty bleak for a while. They trailed with under 8 minutes to go. Trailed with about 5 minutes to go in the ball game on Saturday. But at the same time, they almost double LSU in yardage. It felt like they were clearly the better team. I don't know how it can be both, where like they clearly were better, but also kind of were fortunate to get away with a win a little bit. They kind of survived, but they just found a way. We'll get into all of it, obviously, but I mean, Brent Venables, he said it. What did he say post game? That they're grimy and they like it. Basically, this was another just ugly win, but a win is a win is a win at this point. You got 10 of them now if you're Oklahoma. They just found a way. I mean, what can you say? I mean, it's not pretty football by any means, but they keep finding ways to win. What a November run to get to 10-2.
Yeah, Oklahoma almost got Oklahoma'd. In the sense that it was out, the opponent was outgained. Oklahoma lost the turnover margin in this one, despite really controlling the game on both sides of the ball. But ultimately, the game is about finishing drives, and that is why Oklahoma had almost 400 yards of offense, but just 17 points. They just left a lot of opportunities out there on the field. Obviously, John Mateer's 3 interceptions. We'll get into that. But just, an inability to finish off some of those drives, having a punt a couple times after getting across midfield, having another drive stall out because of a failed fourth down at midfield.
Right.
So that's how you kind of get, 400 yards of offense, but just 17 points. But, again, this offense just found a way to do enough, especially in key spots, creating some explosive plays. We'll get into those more, I'm sure, too. But the defense, just another absolutely dominant performance that we've just kind of come to expect from them at this point.
For sure. And, obviously we'll go big picture kind of at the end, and we'll look ahead to the playoff and what we kind of think, how things are kind of shaping up there. But, big pick, 10 wins. It's kind of amazing. They just, that was as happy of Brent Venables as I've seen. I mean, he's been very smiley in all these November games because they just are playing amazing defense and they're just finding ways to win. But like you said, in this game, it was, the last several weeks, especially the last couple, it felt like against Alabama and Missouri, we would come on this show and we would joke about basically this was what it would look like if the offense just didn't lose them games. Like the offense didn't do much the last couple of weeks, but it was enough because they weren't turning it over and the defense is what it is and they were making some big plays. In this game, the offense tried to lose them the game. The turnovers were just backbreaking. Like you said, get stuffed on a fourth down, but they were able to overcome it because the defense is unbelievable, and we'll obviously get into that as well. But, it's overall a happy day right now for Oklahoma. They're going to the playoff. They won 10 games. But, so I hate to go on a negative note to start, but the conversation is all about John Mateer right now. Awful game. 3 interceptions that very easily could have cost him. But the conundrum here is they did throw for 318, which was, by far the most he's had in quite a while. They had almost 400 yards of offense in this game. which is funny because the narrative coming out of it, obviously nationally, is how bad Oklahoma's offense is, which is fair, but also like this was one of the most productive games of the entire season, certainly in SEC play. They moved the ball, but the turnovers were just absolutely brutal. Where are you at with John Mateer? I mean, we do this every single week trying to figure him out. It's the Mateer conundrum because he does go 23 of 38 for 318 and 2 touchdowns, including the game-winning score. But the interceptions are just awful, and some other just really inaccurate passes in key spots in this game. I don't know what to make of him right now. You know, we did the instant reaction, Colin and I, on Saturday night, and I said then, and you know, I've never been the biggest Michael Hawkins guy, and I've been kind of like a little bit of a John Mateer defender most of the year. I was thinking about it in the late part of this third quarter. I was having the conversation in my head of like, do they need to make a change at quarterback? Because it was ugly on Saturday. It's perplexing right now where they're at with John Mateer. It's confounding.
Yeah, I was having the same thoughts too. Like,
I think everyone was.
They were going to pull the trigger after that third interception, especially because you open the third quarter with 2 drives that get into LSU territory.
Yeah.
And both of them end in interceptions. One of them right after a 29, 30-yard completion. Throw an interception on the next play, trying to push the tempo, just got a little greedy. And then the other one on 3rd and 7, try to take a shot down the sideline that just, you know, was a little bit off target and easy interception there for LSU. And you're wondering, it's like, are they going to pull the trigger here and use Michael Hawkins? Because, you know, we talked about earlier I think it was last week actually.
Yeah.
He could appear in these last 2 games and still be able to redshirt.
Right.
So I was wondering if that was going to happen. I was a little surprised that they didn't, you know, try to do something to switch up the vibe a little bit after those interceptions. But, you know, I think it says something about the belief that not just the coaching staff, but these players have in John Mateer, that they have not gotten down on him despite some of the struggles. You know, I know like after that first interception, obviously he saved the touchdown by, you know, tracking down Harold Perkins Jr. inside the 5-yard line. And then on the very next play, Peyton Bowen picks off Michael Van Buren in the end zone, runs over to John Mateer on the sideline and says, "I got your back." Like, these guys like are supporting him, even though he's been struggling some. And then, you know, John Mateer talked about it after the game, start of the fourth quarter, you know, right before many men hit, Kip Lewis comes up to him, kind of punches him in the chest a few times and says, "Hey, you got to will us to this win. Like, the defense is doing its job. You need to find a way to generate enough offensively to, you know, punch that ticket to the playoff." And to his credit, he did. I think in the fourth quarter, he was 4 of 6 passing for like 92 yards, including the game-winning touchdown. You know, after his, you know, 3rd interception, you know, I think it was something like 6 of 9 passing for like 150 yards and 2 touchdowns. So like he closed strong, but, you know, it's these mistakes, you know, missing open receivers, not seeing guys streaking open downfield, you know, just being a little bit off that are kind of hindering this offense. And look, at this point, like, I don't think it's obvious that this year you're not going to get the John Mateer that was doing what he did at Washington State last year. And, you know, to an extent, what he did at Washington State last year was still a little bit of a mixed bag. Like, there was a lot of good, but there was also like, he's a gunslinger. He takes risks. He's going to make mistakes. They've just been a little bit more pronounced this year when you're facing a schedule that's got, 8 teams that are top 30 in SP Plus defensively, including 7 in the top 20. Like, it has been an adjustment for him. The thumb injury certainly did not help his progression this year. But, you know, he seems to still be their best option. And, like, it's got to be frustrating because you see the glimpses there.
Oh, like, yeah.
You see some of those strikes that he was like throwing to Isaiah Spade outfield to Giovanni Gibson on a couple of key 3rd downs. Like, it's there. It's just a matter of putting it all together. And he has not been able to put it together for, you know, a full 4 quarters since that Auburn game, really, before the injury.
Yeah.
But yeah, I mean, it's crazy. Like, this was his, you know, first 300-yard passing game since that season opener against Illinois State. It was just his 3rd multi-passing touchdown game of the season. You know, to his credit, back-to-back games now, between the Missouri game and this game. But still, I mean, I don't know. Like I said, it's a mixed bag. But like, at this point, like heading into the playoff, you go with the one that brought you. And he's the one that brought you there. He's the one that's got the experience in here. Again, like the belief that these guys have in him is evident, even when things aren't necessarily going right.
Yeah, it's the decision making and the accuracy or inaccuracy for me that just is puzzling. Because he threw 3 interceptions, could easily had a couple more. There was a couple that were scary passes over the course of the game, and there's just times where even like when he connects on a pass, like the Giovanni Gibson 9-yard, which wasn't a horrible throw, but like, man, put it in his chest, probably goes another 15 yards, and he has to fall down. The Caden Helms, which Ben Arbuckle schemed up perfectly, wide open, huge chunk play. It's a short little dink throw, and it's behind Caden Helms. Should he still catch it? Probably. But, I mean, it was way harder than it needed to be, and it just, yeah. But at the end of the day, like you said, he does go for 318. They attacked the middle of the field really well. He was ripping some balls to certainly Giovanni Gibson, like you said. Another huge day for Satania. Like it's they're in a weird spot because I've kind of all year been like, this is your guy. He's going to be back next year, and I still certainly believe that John Mateer is their guy going next year. Because, like you said, they have belief in him, and that team certainly loves him and believes in him, and the leadership aspect, all that shouldn't be overlooked. But it's at least like a little bit of a convo. I mean, I've never really broached that subject too much, but I think it is like a little bit of a, we'll see what happens in the playoff. But like, you probably do need to kind of look at it a little bit like, is there another option that can give us a better chance? Because this defense is ready to win a national championship. Mm-hmm. It's there. And the quarterback spot, like I said, I have never really, even for a moment this year, seriously thought about, like, do they need to make a change? And after that third pick, I was thinking about it. Like, do they need to go to Michael Hawkins here? And they didn't, and it worked out, and they won. And we'll see what happens. And like I said before, I fully expect when 2026 rolls around, it'll be John Mateer under center when they start the next season. But it is at least like, if you're a fan who fully is on the train of they should look at other options, like I don't think you're crazy, right? I'm not totally against you, because this is kind of what he's been for a while now.
Yeah, I mean, it's frustrating and it's weird because like the offense was explosive in this one. Like they had, they
moved the ball.
They had 7 completions of 15 plus yards. 5 of those were over 20 yards. Obviously, the 2 long touchdowns. One of them was a tunnel screen to Deion Burks, where he did most of the heavy lifting, but it was schemed up well. I think Ben Arbuckle largely called a pretty good game in this one.
I agree.
Never going to be a perfect game. There's going to be some calls that you want back. Certainly that 4th and 1 at midfield. Would probably like to design up something a little bit better there. Somehow schemed up a wide open Isaiah Satania for the go-ahead touchdown. Like I'm still not sure how he got that wide open and how that coverage was blown, but
that was unreal.
But like, the explosiveness that we expected from this offense was there. It's just a matter of the decision making and being able to finish drives, which was lacking at times. And you expect more from an experienced quarterback like John Mateer, who again is in his 3rd year in this system. Certainly the standard of being the starting quarterback at Oklahoma is what it is, given the pedigree there. Simply put, like, he needs to be better for this team to be a threat in the postseason. And I think he's capable of it. It's just a matter, can he sustain it for long enough stretches?
Yeah.
Because I mean, look, it's kind of funny. Like we talked about before the season, like if this offense averages like 28 points a game, like they're going to be in good shape because the defense is that good. The offense literally just needs to score 15 points a game. Defense is giving up 14 a game,
right?
A shade under 14 through the regular season. And yet going up against some good offenses. So you just need enough, but you're going to face better teams in the postseason. And he's going to need to be better. I think these 3 weeks, 3-ish weeks off, like, are going to benefit a lot of people on the offensive side of the ball.
Sure.
It's going to benefit some guys on the defense too, certainly. But like, he's just got to be better if this team wants to be a threat in December and into January.
No doubt. And that's the paradox, if that's maybe not the right word, that you're in with John, in that the last couple of weeks they didn't turn it over, but there was a lot of conversation of, like, and Brent Venables said as much, they need to stretch the field more. They need more explosives. They got it in this game, but he turns it over 3 times, and that almost cost him the other way. So it's like, can he do both? can he create those big plays and throw for 300 yards, but not turn it over a few times? Or does he have to just play it safe and take your $150 and hopefully you can score enough that way? Like, can you have both? Because right now the answer is no. It's kind of one or the other right now, and pick your poison a little bit, which, after the day in Dallas, we saw them get very conservative for a long while. Just like take care of the ball, let the defense win the game for you. They kind of, I think, started to want to open it up a little bit, and now you have a game like this where you got away with it. You won, but you very nearly didn't. Obviously, they were down again with about 5 minutes to go in this game. They were down at home to a not great LSU team, an LSU team that's got players. We talked about that on Friday. I thought Michael Van Buren made some big time throws in this game, but at the end of the day, it's a game that we all thought they were going to win and should win, and they very nearly lost it and kind of wrecked their whole season because of the turnovers. That was the primary reason. I mean, so we'll see. It's a tough spot. It's a tricky spot for John.
Yeah, you talk about stretching the field. They were 0 of 6 on deep balls against Missouri. Attempted 6 more in this one. John Mateer completed 3 of them, including the touchdown. He had 1 interception on a deep ball. So they were able to stretch the field a little bit more. That interception down the left sideline was just
way underthrown.
Yeah, in my opinion, that was probably the most egregious of the 3 interceptions. I think the second one was just a really good read by the safety, I think it was, that came in there and just kind of jumped the route. And the first one, batted ball, some of those are just
that's his arm slot. It's gonna happen.
Yeah, it's the arm slot thing. It's gonna happen sometimes, but it's not always gonna get batted straight.
The one, I don't hate the idea of it. He had one-on-one. That's your biggest guy, but it was just way underthrown. It was just a terrible throw.
Yeah.
So we'll see. Going to be an interesting storyline, obviously, moving into the playoff. What can Mateer do? Like you said, the time off probably good for him to at least just even get a mental reset before they get to the playoff game in a few weeks. What about the offense just overall, both on Saturday and really kind of the whole season? We've got a full body work now, 12 games. We'll see what they do in the playoff. In this game, again, run game, not there. It hasn't been most of the year. They go for under 3 yards a carry. Torrey Blaylock had a couple of nice moments. Xavier Robinson's just clearly not right. I mean, he's just beat up. He had 6 carries for 10 yards. Jay Knott got into this game, which was hilarious. His first snap was the Burks touchdown. He didn't get a carry, but he was in the game for a handful of snaps, which just shows you where they were at running back again on Saturday. I mentioned Satania. Huge day for him. I've talked about it throughout the year that they're kind of missing that game changer at wide receiver. And the room isn't where they need it to be overall by any means. But I want to make sure to kind of Satania's had an awesome year. I mean, he's been
second in the SEC in receiving.
When they've needed a big play, it's been him. He has been the offensive weapon on this team all year. He gets the game-winning touchdown. He goes for 121 again. He also had a great punt return. He's had an awesome year. So I want to make sure to give him full credit. What were your overall thoughts offensively, both, again, Saturday and then kind of big picture? Did you see enough this year to feel good about the way it's moving? Kind of like John Mateer. Ben Arbuckle's going to be the guy next year. I mean, there's no real conversation there about any sort of a change. I do think this staff might get a little bit tweaked before next year. But offensively, again, they actually put up almost 400 yards in this game, but the turnovers were killer. They still can't really run the ball. Where are you at offensively? What were the takeaways? Again, both Saturday and kind of big picture after 12 games now.
Yeah, I mean, first of all, I agree with you that Ben Arbuckle is going to be the guy this year, as much as some of our subscribers may disagree with that. Had a few threads started up with OC hot boards by some readers this weekend.
Of course.
It's been a work in progress throughout the year. I think we probably, to an extent, overestimated what this offense would do in year one with him.
Sure.
I think it's had its moments. I think it has been better than last year. I think the circumstances have also been better than last year too. I think the offensive line has really improved throughout the season. I think that might be the most promising aspect of it, considering how bad that unit was. And they've had to navigate some injuries this year too. It hasn't been as bad as last year.
Is that the best unit on offense? The offensive line? Probably is.
So. Yeah, collectively, I think so, which none of us would have expected that going into the season.
No.
I think it's very promising that you have 3 freshmen, including a redshirt freshman in Eddie Pearley, that have been reliable and also have, progressed well through the season. I mean, Michael Fasusi, these guys make penalties here and there. Like there's holding calls, there's false starts, but they've held up really well, especially in pass protection. The run game still has a lot to be desired, but that unit has been really impressive. And this was the first game that they did not give up a sack all year against a very good LSU defensive front that was averaging 2.5 sacks a game. It's just the third time in Brent Venables' 4 years that they've not given up a sack in a game. It's the first time against a Power 4 opponent that's happened. And they were doing it with kind of a makeshift line with Febechi Wiwu kicking inside to center and, Ryan Foje having to start at right guard because Jake Michael, was in the hospital earlier in the week with an infection. So, I think that there's a good foundation to build on for this offense, especially because you're bringing back, you would hope, those 3 freshmen. Got Jake Michael will be back for another year. You got to figure out that 5th spot. But I think there's a good foundation to build on. And when you have the offensive line, it makes everything else a little bit easier going into year 2. Quarterback play we discussed, it's been uneven. I agree with you. I think John Mateer, barring some ridiculous thing happening, is going to be the guy again. Curious to see what that room looks like next year. Bo Bentley will be in, but do they add another, maybe like a journeyman transfer to kind of bolster the depth there? We'll see what Michael Hawkins does. Whether he wants to stick around for another year or explore his options. You mentioned the wide receiver room. Big credit to Isaiah Satania. I think I called it before the season that he's going to be their number 1 receiver, especially after Giovanni Gibson went down in the spring. And, he's tied with Brennan Thompson for receiving yards in the SEC, or for second in the SEC in receiving yards this season.
Of course.
He's like 50 yards shy of being Oklahoma's first 1,000-yard receiver since Marvin Mims, I believe. He's the first receiver with 400-yard games in a season since CeeDee Lamb, if I'm not mistaken. So, I mean, he is really impressed. Like you said, he's been their go-to guy. Like when they've needed a big play, they've gotten it. Deion Burks hasn't had the season that he's wanted, but I think it's good going into the postseason that you were able to get him a little bit more involved there in that last game. Obviously, create a little layup there for him on the tunnel screen against cover 0. They need to address the tight end position. Like, as good as Jaron Kanik has been in some spots, making some key plays, and he made some good catches in this one.
Game-winning drive, he was huge.
Yeah, exactly. Set up that last touchdown. So that was huge. But they need a healthy running back room, and they need someone who could block at tight end and be a little bit of a threat in the passing game too. I think this offense can be better next year. I think it's been better than where it was last year.
Sure,
but Oklahoma's hopes in the postseason rest squarely on how well this offense can come together for 4 8 quarters or 8 quarter stretches here over the next month. There's been signs of good things, but it's just like it feels like every time it's 1 step forward or 2 steps back or 1.5 steps back. But again, they just keep finding ways to make plays when they've needed to, which there's something to say about that. But like Brent Venables said after the game, would you prefer to be able to just go out there and blow teams out? Of course, but for one reason or another, they just nothing's been easy for them.
No, it's funny because, for a long time it was, for Oklahoma, it was, score 50 points. And then they did seem to have, even as bad as those defenses were in the late 2010s, they did seem to have a knack for kind of getting like one big play at some point or one big stop at the end of the game or whatever to win, 50 to 45 or whatever. Now it's kind of the opposite. Like the defense is amazing and it's like the offense is kind of bad most of the day, but they do find a way to kind of get one big score late when they need it. They've actually had several fourth quarter drives this year when they had to have them to kind of win games really all season long. And they did it again, obviously, in this game. I agree. I mean, they're going to need to hit the portal at the skill positions. That's really what it boils down to. They need more receivers. They need probably some help at running back, even though you obviously really like Xavier Robinson and Torrey Blaylock, who both should be back for you. You're going to need another guy or two. I mean, they're just too thin, and that's how you get in the spot you're in right now, which is these two guys are beat up, and then you have no one. I mean, that's where they're at right now. If X-Rob and Blaylock are hurt, which they are, they just don't have bodies. I mean, it's Jaden Ott and Tatum, who's we haven't seen all year, and Javonte Barnes, who has shut it down. Like they're in a horrible spot at that position. And then, like you said, the tight end room, you need to get a game changer there. And Jaren Kanek's done an admirable job. He's had a pretty solid season, obviously, but he's a converted linebacker. Like he is blocking. He's had a great season, all things considered. But like a guy who flipped over from defense, never played the position before, is clearly your best guy. And I think Caden Helms has done some nice things this year too. But like it kind of goes to show where that room is a little bit. They just need more talent there, and so we'll see. We'll see what they can do offensively. It's the next few weeks, and we'll talk about the playoff in a minute. But these next few weeks, hopefully, you maybe can get Robinson and Blaylock closer to 100% by the time you play again, and that can make a big difference for you because it felt like they had just found a little something in the run game when these injuries started to really pile up. I mean, X-Rob and Torrey Blaylock both had 100-yard games, and like it felt like a corner was being turned. And then obviously those guys have gotten really beat up, and it's kind of gone backwards. But like you said, you feel like you have offensive line settled. Jake Michael hopefully could be back for the playoff as well, you'd assume. And so some bones to be at least a little bit optimistic, I think. But we'll see. As far as moving like big picture offensively, a little better, but still a long way to go. Kind of where it boils down to. Long way to go still.
And I also think it's been promising that they've been able to get Javonte Gibson more involved these last couple of weeks.
He's looked more and more like the guy they thought.
It took time coming off of that broken leg in the spring. Even when he first came back, trying to get settled, get his feet under him, got his first touchdown against Missouri, had a few explosive plays in this one. I think he had a 30-yarder and then maybe a 27, 29-yarder, something like that.
Yeah.
And then the 9-yarder that, had an opportunity to be an explosive play if the ball was just a little bit more in front of him. But he's a guy that, like you said, big body playmaker that, John Mateer seems comfortable, trying to find him over the middle when you need some plays. But Isaiah Satenia has been the guy. And he should be getting that 1,000-yard season in the playoffs.
Sure.
I'd be shocked if he didn't, but kudos to him for being everything that they told us he was going to be before the season. Kind of that reliable safety valve for John Mateer.
And I think he has another year. I don't envision he's going to use it. I would think he would jump after a year like this and go ahead and test the NFL waters, but you never know. I guess we'll see. But yeah, he's been excellent. I mean, he's kind of been the one consistent offensive player on the whole team. I mean, he's been dynamite. I don't know where they'd be without him, what he's done this year.
Yeah, sure. He was one of a handful of redshirt juniors who went through senior day. And I'm curious to see what some of those decisions are going to look like.
Sure.
It was him. It was, Kobe McKenzie, Kip Lewis, Owen Heineke.
A lot of guys who have another year, which we talked about on Friday. Most guys tend to just do it, and then you can always decide later. Like you do it twice, you do it twice. You'd rather do it twice than zero.
Yeah, I mean, didn't Drake Stoops have 3 senior days?
Probably. I can't remember. That sounds about right, though.
Yeah. And look, I don't fault these guys for wanting to go through it if you're a redshirt junior, especially because you're being honored with a lot of the guys that you came in with.
Sure.
Especially for this group, that 2022 class, who, they were Brent Venables' first class. Like there's something to be said about that, and wanting to go through it. And then if you have another senior day in a year, you have another senior day in a year. If you decide to go pro, you decide to go pro. But it's better than being like, no, I'm not going to do it, and then change your mind and you miss that memory, that opportunity to kind of be recognized.
Jay did not go through it, which is kind of funny.
Especially when
he played in a game. And then he played key snaps in the second half. In the fourth quarter, he's on the field in a tie game with your season on the line. It's just amazing. So we talk about it. The offense has still got a ways to go. It's a work in progress. The defense is there. I mean, the defense is there. Another masterpiece. They hold LSU to 198 total yards. Fewest against a Power 5 team since 2017, which was Kansas, who's terrible.
Oh, yeah. For LSU, though, it's their fewest in a game since 2018 against Alabama. Their fewest yards per play since that 2018 game against Alabama, too. And I think it was just 193 total yards and 3.2 yards per play instead of 3.3. So it was just an utterly dominant performance from this defense.
First time, fewest since 2017 Kansas, which OU fans will remember. That's the game where Baker Mayfield, the crotch grab game out there in Lawrence. That's when Kansas was terrible, winning 1 or 2 games a year. That's what the defense did on Saturday. LSU could not do anything at all in this game. Michael Van Buren, 14 of 25 with a pick, 96 yards total. They ran for less than 3 yards to carry. This was the first game all year where Oklahoma did not get a sack, but that was by design. LSU was not. They knew going in, we cannot drop back and pass and try to move the ball that way. It was all quick stuff, and they didn't move the ball really hardly at all. Again, less than 200 yards in this game. Not a whole lot of new ground to cover defensively here, Tom. It's amazing. It's maybe the best defense in the country. No Mason Thomas again. No Gentry Williams again. No Reggie Powers for a half. And it just rolls on. It just doesn't matter. They just continue to churn out stops after stops. And, that John Mateer interception where they run it back inside the 5 and Peyton Bowen at first play gets interception. Like, that was one of those, like, you just throw your hands up like, my God, these guys are just unbelievable. Like, they just backs against the wall. It doesn't matter how terrible of positions the offense puts them in. They just come through and bail them out time and time and time again. It's amazing. It really is incredible. And I don't think they're going to win the national title this year, but this defense is going to give them a chance every game, even though the offense is what it is. It's amazing. I mean, again, I don't really have a lot of new ground to cover. They've been doing this all year. I'm out of adjectives and ways to determine it. They're incredible. They're amazing.
Yeah, I mean, it is a championship caliber defense.
It totally is.
Which is why it would have been incredibly, disappointing if the offense had not found a way in that game, because they would have been wondering what if so much, because they would have squandered their opportunity to get into the college football playoff if that offense had not, found a way to get a couple late scores there. But yeah, I mean, shout out to the defense. Forced 9 punts, 7 3-and-outs. Obviously, the one takeaway, turnover on downs late, also courtesy of Peyton Bowen, who got that pass breakup on the final LSU play of the game. Man, Peyton Bowen,
really
the season
good.
He's had has been this is what everybody expected of him when he came in as a 5-star.
Mm-hmm.
I think he's been Oklahoma's highest rated defensive player on the season. This week, he was one of the best safeties in all of the sport in week 14. I was a little surprised he didn't get an SEC weekly honor for what he did this week. But I mean, he's just been a great playmaker. I believe he's had a key play in each of these 4 November wins. Because you go to Tennessee, he had an interception there.
Mm-hmm.
You go to Alabama, I believe he had a pass breakup at the end of the game.
Yeah, the last one. Yeah, the
last one.
Yeah.
Missouri game, obviously, had the blocked field goal, and then to get another interception in a key spot here, and then the game-sealing pass breakup.
Yeah.
I mean, him and Eli have been incredible playmakers down the stretch here for Oklahoma. But, I mean, this defense, like you said, man, there's just only so much you can say about it at this point. But they've been so good and just, did not let a talented but very flawed and underwhelming LSU offense do anything against them.
It's amazing. There's so many guys. Kendall Daniels was really good again. Him and Owen Heineke tie for the team lead in tackles in this game. What a year for Owen Heineke. Crazy story that we kind of come numb to a little bit, but it is nuts the year that he's had. And Grayson Halton, too. I want to make sure. I mean, Grayson Halton has been a pleasure. He's one of those guys who that was his last home game, at least in the regular season. We'll see what happens with the playoff. But what a year he's had and what a career he's had. Frankly, he's been a great guy to cover. He's a great interview for us, whenever we get to talk to him. And he was awesome again in this game. He had a TFL and he had that unreal play where he almost just caught the snap, the pitch. He read it so well. He got a hand on it. They lost 20 yards on that play. The LSU really kind of tanked that drive. They ended up still getting a field goal out of it. But he has been so much fun. And that D tackle room is unbelievable. We said before the year that it might be the strength of the team, and it has been all year long. And Jaden Jackson was a freshman All-American. David Snow was a 5-star. Dominic Williams obviously was this highly coveted transfer. He's been excellent. But Grayson Halton feels like he's almost like the glue guy of that he's just so good. And he's so good. And I feel like he's kind of one of the more underrated guys of the last couple of years. But he was excellent again. And pregame, too, it's hilarious. LSU's running out onto the field, coming out of the tunnel.
Everybody.
The whole roster. The video of it is hilarious. I have it. I put it on my Twitter. He's pointing out guys. He's that's Grayson Halton. That's who he is. He loves to talk out there, and he's He's awesome. He's been a great player to cover the last several years, and he was really good again on
Yeah.
Saturday. So
yeah, I mean, he's been one of their best interior pass rushers these last couple of years.
Oh yeah.
But it was his run defense that was really impressive in this one. I think he was the highest graded defensive tackle against the run this week in like all of college football. Second highest among defensive linemen. I think there's just one defensive end that had a better run stop grade than him, and like 7th among all defensive players. So just a really strong performance from him in what was his last regular season home game. At least we'll see if they end up hosting or not.
For sure. And on that note, let's look ahead, big picture to the playoff. So Oklahoma, with almost complete certainty, is in. Right. I mean, there's always I've had a lot of OU fans asking me the last 48 hours, DMing me on Twitter, like, are you sure they're in? Like, is it 100%? I'm pretty sure. I mean, I'm like 95 plus, but there is always a little bit of a doubt in there until it happens. We'll see what happens with the rankings tomorrow. I do wonder, the question here, because the doomsday scenario that people have brought up to me is, what if Notre Dame jumps them? And then what if Alabama wins the SEC? And then what if BYU wins the Big 12? Like, could there be enough chaos that they could slide? Because you really have to be in the top 10, right? I mean, 11 and 12 is going to get lopped off because of the G5 and then presumably the ACC champion, although I don't know if that's for sure, with the fact that Duke is playing for the ACC on Saturday night.
Yeah. Might be two G5s.
It might be two G5s. Either way, that 11 and 12 is probably not going to make it. And so you need to be in the top 10. OU is 8. I think they're going to be fine. I think push comes to shove, they're going to get in over someone, whether it's a Texas Tech if they were to lose in the Big 12 championship, or Notre Dame. I don't. It's not for sure that Notre Dame is going to jump them tomorrow. They shouldn't. I'll say that. They shouldn't because they don't have the resume. But they're going to almost certainly be in. We'll see what happens with the rankings tomorrow. Where are you at with this team? Obviously, it's a phenomenal season as it is just to get there, 10 wins. But it does feel like with this defense, and especially if they're at home, although they've been maybe better on the road this year, like they have a shot to win a game. And it's like if look, you're in the dance, right? You got a chip in a chair. They got the best defense in the sport. Offense rests up a little bit, maybe get some of these running backs healthy. They could, I mean, again, they're going to be in a game with almost anyone. And so, like, who knows what can happen from here? Where are you at with this team going into the playoff? How much damage can they realistically do? Well, where are you at with them and their candidacy to make a run at this thing?
I think they can at least make a quarterfinal, whether they host in a first round or not.
Yeah.
I think just with this defense and getting a couple guys back healthy, you would hope our Mason Thomas could be able to be available.
Andrew Williams maybe too.
Andrew Williams maybe. But I think with how good this defense has been, and you give Brent Venables 2 to 3 weeks, I'm sure they've already gotten a jump start scouting some of these potential opponents.
It's most likely Notre Dame, right? I mean, there are other scenarios, but that's the most likely opponent.
Yeah, so but I'm sure like that staff is already doing their homework.
Yes.
And game planning.
For sure.
You give Brent Venables with this defense 3 weeks to prepare for a team, like,
yeah,
I think they'll be able to be in it against whoever their opponent is in that opening round. Beyond that, it's a uphill climb because you're talking about facing,
a top 4.
If you stay in that 8 or 9 spot, you're probably talking about facing Ohio State or Indiana, whoever wins the Big 10.
Sure.
Most teams have been very good this year. They may not have played as many good teams in the Big 10, but Ohio State obviously, beat a Michigan team that Oklahoma's got a shared win against. They beat Texas in the season opener. They've been tested to an extent, but those teams just kind of feel like, buzzsaws at this point, just the way their seasons have gone.
Sure.
So, I mean, we'll see. Like, anything can happen once you get in there. But I think that, given Brent Venables' acumen as a defensive coach and, giving this offense a few weeks to rest up and having enough time to game plan for an opponent, I think that they'll at least be able to make it to the quarterfinals. And after that, I think, again, before this season, Oklahoma was projected to win 6.5, 7 games against that schedule. And we're talking about 10. I keep thinking about Peyton Bowen's quote after the game. He was like, 10 wins. If you took the over, you're a happy man. If you took the under, you're sad. I don't feel bad for you. Just great stuff from Peyton. So it's been a successful season regardless of what happens after this. But I feel like, whoever they match up with in that first round, they're going to have a really good chance of advancing to, I would assume the Rose Bowl if they're in that 8-9 game.
Yeah, you would assume if it is Ohio State or Indiana, I guess either way, like you said,
whichever Big Ten team is.
Yeah, right. You would think it would
the Rose Bowl. Yeah.
Parker Fleming, Stats Award, who everyone knows very well. He had the this morning the win expectancy, basically what the average team would do against your schedule.
Wins above
Oklahoma plus 5.53. That's the top, sixth highest in the sport. The average team, basically what that means, the average team against OU's schedule, according to the numbers, would be 5-7. Yeah, so
4-8
or 4-8. It's been an incredible season, and another wrinkle with like the seeding thing, the rankings. Could they be at home? What do they do with Ole Miss? I'll say Lane Kiffin leaves. It sounds like the belief is at least that Ole Miss is going to slide, even though they beat Oklahoma. They don't have Lane Kiffin anymore. They don't have a lot of their staff anymore, and so their offensive coordinator, like they're going to probably slip a bit, and so that can only really help OU, and so that might help them, get in there as well. But I'll just say this because there's been a lot of talk. I've seen a lot from like Notre Dame fans and a lot of different teams that have kind of, and just national talking heads, honestly, kind of doing this thing where like Oklahoma, that's a team that you do want to play because the offense is what it is. And I would just say be careful because this defense, man, I'm sure Alabama didn't think that OU was going to roll in there and beat them. I'm not saying OU's going to win the national championship again, but this defense is going to give them a chance to play anyone they play. I mean, if you are going in thinking that Oklahoma is a team that you want to draw because of the offense, I would just be careful what you wish for a little bit there because this defense is going to muck up a game against anyone they play and give them a chance. And so we'll see. Oklahoma won. It would be a major travesty if they're not in, by the way. And I fully expect them to be in. But, this whole conversation of Miami should be in or Notre Dame, get out of here. They don't have wins anywhere close to what OU has done this year. So we'll see how it shakes out. The rankings tomorrow night will be very interesting. I will be tuned in and very curious because if they're above Notre Dame, if they're 8, they're in. It's good, But if they fall below, you do have to kind of sweat a little, maybe.
Yeah, I still think Miami should be ahead of Notre Dame.
They should.
They have the same record.
They should.
I don't know. The whole strength of loss thing is it's like, Notre Dame lost to a good Texas A&M team and to a good Miami team, but I don't know. It's weird. We'll see what happens.
Miami should be in over Notre Dame, and they also, Notre Dame basically is in the ACC. They essentially play an ACC schedule. They have the USC win, which is something, but is Miami beating Notre Dame not better than that? That I really wish as a collective we would shift our mindset to more your wins more than your losses, because that's what we're looking to see who can win the national title here. I don't care as much about your floor as much as I care about your ceiling. Right? That's what should be valued more. But at the same time,
you're saying Texas should be in.
No, I was going to say at the same time, you can't go lose a quarter of your games, including to a few in Florida, and have an argument to get in there. It's more just let's just use common sense, I guess, at the end of the day is what I'm looking for.
Yeah, it's just crazy that clearly the best team in the ACC is probably going to get left out of this. Yeah. They're not
playing. Duke, 7-5 Duke is somehow in the ACC championship game. It's crazy. Yeah. It's crazy, but what can you do? We'll see. Rankings tomorrow night, and obviously, like I said, we won't know the bracket until Sunday, but we'll have a very good idea after Tuesday night. And I'm sure Colin and I will talk about the rankings a little bit on the Thursday show later this week. And then Sunday, we don't know what that's going to look like in terms of will they have a watch party open to us on Sunday or anything? We don't know. It's uncharted waters, but coverage in some form or fashion on Sunday will be coming to you. We're going to have some instant reaction thoughts as well on the bracket and all that on Sunday. Again, what that looks like, we'll figure it out, but keep an eye out for a lot of coverage on Sunday once we know the bracket. Let's quickly do some hoops on the way out real fast. They got a big win over the weekend. They beat Marquette out in Chicago. It was a very sweaty game for Porter Moser. They almost blew it. They were down in the first half, just kind of hanging on. Second half, they played great. Tay Davis was phenomenal. Nigel Pack was really, really good. They almost blew it. They had some bad mistakes late, a bad foul by Tay Davis, a bad turnover where Xavier Brown just slips and falls on a pass right to him from Nigel Pack. But they found a way. We talked about it last week. It felt like you probably need 3 of this 4-game stretch. And this was really kind of like maybe the most key one, like to get going a little bit. And they found a way. They got Wake Forest tomorrow night in the ACC SEC Challenge, and they go out to Arizona State on Saturday. So a couple of tough one's a true road game. The other one's basically a road game out there in Phoenix. Thoughts for you, though, on Saturday? I mean, it felt like there was definitely some encouraging aspects of the game, still some concerning aspects, but at the end of the day, they got really the best version by far of Tay Davis that we've seen all year. Darian Reed played pretty well, I thought, too. And look, they won a game against a high major team. I don't know how good Marquette is, but they found a way to get the win. It at least feels like they got a little momentum now for the first time this year.
Yeah, definitely some promising things to take away from that game.
Yeah.
Leading with Tay Davis.
He was really good.
Yeah, just on both ends of the floor, rebounded really well. They had no answer for him inside. Early in the year, we saw him kind of struggling to finish at the rim. Wasn't the case in this one. He was very efficient. And got to talk about that final possession. 18 seconds left on the clock, and he's just man-to-man switching on whoever has the ball and just stonewalled Marquette. Their best player stonewalled him, forced him into a tough shot there at the buzzer, way off the mark. We see why Porter Moser was so gung ho about his defensive potential before the season, and why he thinks he can be one of the better defenders in the league, in the country. Maybe you need him to sustain that throughout the year, but I think the fact that he was able to find some confidence on the offensive end, and just how efficiently he played, and then be that locked in defensively with his length and his strength, I think is a very good sign. Nigel Pack just is what he is. I mean, he might be one of the best shooters in college basketball right now. And you expect that from a guy who's in his 12th year. But he was really good again. I think two of the most promising developments in this one, I think, were Darian Reed and Jeff Nwankwo. Darren got to a very good start. Hit a key 3 there in the second half. 2 threes for the game. Jeff Nwankwo was 3 of 4, 3 of 5 from deep.
He hit 3. Yeah, he only had 2 going in.
Yeah, he was 2 of 18 or 2 of 21 coming into the game, something like that. So those guys kind of settling in and being able to see a few shots go in, I think, is really promising because, like Porter Moser said, he's very confident that those guys are good shooters. He's been adamant about that.
Sure.
They've just not been falling early in the season, but he's still kind of encouraged them. And the fact that they've remained engaged defensively despite the shots not falling was a good sign going into that Marquette game. And now we finally see some shots falling. So we'll see what those guys kind of progress like. But obviously, when they're able to hit some of those open shots, it opens things up offensively for this team. On the flip side, though, you need more from the point guard position.
Xavier Brown was awful.
Brown was 0 of 9.
I mean, call it one game, but he was terrible.
Yeah. 0 of 9, couple costly turnovers. I know that last turnover technically was on Nigel Pack, but that was Xavier Brown lost his footing and went out, or ball went out of bounds there. Dayton Forsyth also 0 of 6, so getting a combined 0 of 15, including I think 0 of 8, 0 of 9 from beyond the arc from those 2 point guards.
Yeah,
that's not going to cut it against tougher competition
for sure.
I don't expect that to be a regular thing, but clearly they need those guys to kind of get back on track for this team to be able to reach some of its potential.
Milwaukee continues to be a foul machine as well, which is, worrisome, obviously. Now, he had a couple tough calls, I thought, but that's kind of been happening. I don't know what the answer is there, but he's got to find a way to stay on the floor. He picked up a foul 15 seconds into the game. No, can't.
An offensive rebound too, right?
Yeah, yes. Yeah. It's cannot have that, But like you said, Xavier Brown, really rough game for him. So it's encouraging that they were able to win despite that. Like you said, Darian Reed hits the big shot late. Jeff Nwankwo, that's all you need, man.
Give him the first lead of the day.
What's that?
Gave him the first lead of the day.
Yeah.
Jeff did.
Yeah, no, it's Jeff Nwankwo. If he can just hit, a couple of threes in a game, that's all you need for him. Get out there, get a couple boards. He's obviously a great athlete. you're not looking for him to dominate the game. Just like have some productive minutes, and he obviously certainly did that. And like you said, Nigel Pack was awesome. I mean, in the first half, not a lot was going right except for Nigel Pack. He was keeping him in it. And then the second half, Tay Davis and Darian Reed really got going, and they found a way to get a big win. They had to have it. And so we'll see what they do from here. Wake Forest tomorrow night. Like I said, that's a true road game out in Winston-Salem. Wake Forest playing pretty good ball. Their only 2 losses this year were by 1 point to Michigan, who looks like maybe the best team in the country. And then I think to Texas Tech was the other one. Both 1-point losses. So, they're playing pretty good. And then they got to go to Arizona State on Saturday, who, same thing, has had some nice moments, played pretty well out in Maui last week. They got a guard, Mo Odom, who has just been getting buckets everywhere, early part in the season. So another couple of tough games. And then they got Bedlam next weekend out in OKC. But that's what made this one so important. Like, it felt like, man, if you lose this one and you're now 0-3 going into this week with Bedlam next week, like you're really staring down the barrel of like a bad start going into SEC play. So to get that win was really, really important for Oklahoma. We'll see what they do this week. Big game tomorrow night with Wake Forest. That's a big opportunity out there on the road. That's probably a quad 1, I'm guessing, that's a living organism, right? It can change over the course of a season.
Yeah, and the first net rankings came out today. I haven't checked what Wake Forest was.
I think they're like in the 50s or something. So
that might be a quad 1 opportunity.
Yeah, I think they were somewhere in that range. So big opportunity though on the road against another high major team, and then Arizona State and Bedlam. So big stretch coming up for Porter Moser's squad. But that was a sorely need a win, and they got it on Friday. I think that's it. We'll be back later this week. I mentioned it. Signing day is Wednesday, so we'll have tons of coverage. Obviously on the site, Colin Kennedy, this is like his Super Bowl this week. A lot of work for him on the recruiting side. Brent Venables, 10:30 Wednesday morning. Jim Nagy going to talk on Wednesday as well. First time we've heard from Jim like in a formal press conference setting since he was introduced back whenever that was, back in the spring, I guess. So it's been a long time. So keep an eye out for that on the YouTube channel. Hear from Brent and Jim Nagy. I may get to the Noble Center Wednesday night. The women play NC State. We'll see. So we might have some coverage from Norman on Wednesday for that one, potentially. And then, like we said, we're going to the weekend. We'll see what happens on Sunday, the selection show, but we'll have some coverage both on the site and on the YouTube channel Sunday in some form or fashion after the bracket is out. So keep an eye out for all that. And, we're going to kind of catch our breath a little bit and get ready for either a massive playoff game in Norman or a trip out to somewhere. I mean, who knows, right? So we'll be figuring it out. We'll be hectically, frantically getting travel plans together on Sunday night, if need be. Think that's it though for now. We'll see you later this week with Colin Kennedy for the Thursday show, wrapping up signing day and playoff rankings talk, all that good stuff. For Tom Green, I'm Josh Callaway. We'll see you guys next time right back here as always on Sooners Illustrated.